What's up, everybody, and welcome to Inside the Game, your source for everything in the world of video games. That's right, as always, we're back with more content, and we've got a whole lot more coming up in the world of VR. Uncharted makes their return, and a whole lot more. What's on today's rundown? Here it is. Check it out.
All right, Steve, we're kind of making a trend of this. We're throwing the VR headsets on again this week, and we're checking out a pretty awesome shooter, Larcenauts.
All right, this week we're headed to the Sonoa region and catching them all.
Well, my first impression of it was, this is an interesting idea for a colony sim.
We're globetrotting with an old friend.
You ever wonder with different choices?
Well, I said we have an awesome show, so why don't we get going? Here it is. It is Steve and Cory kicking it off in the world of VR.
All right, Steve, we're kind of making a trend of this. We're throwing the VR headsets on again this week, and we're checking out a pretty awesome shooter, Larcenauts.
All right, Captain. I got the intel.
Good. Now take it to the uplink.
All right, Steve, like I said, we're tossing the VR headsets on again this week. You and I have been playing quite a few VR games over the last few weeks, and honestly, I'm having a blast. I kind of like playing a lot of VR, especially all in kind of a row, because I don't pull the headset out all that often when I'm playing on the console or the PC. So we got to check out Larcenauts this week, which is actually kind of an arena-based shooter. And this one is kind of not really like any shooter I've played. It's very fast-paced in the gameplay, and it's done in a way where it feels like we're playing kind of an Overwatch-style game. It's 6v6. There's multiple game modes, multiple heroes with abilities, and all different kinds of things here. There's a lot offering as far as what Impulse Gear is giving us with this game. We are getting kind of an advanced roadmap. This game has been out for several months now, and over the last probably 3 or 4 months, they've made steady gameplay improvements. They've listened to the community, and kind of getting into this one, Steve, I actually had a lot of fun, and I think that we're getting into this now, a few months past release, that we're getting kind of a better picture of what this game really is. What did you think jumping into Larcenauts?
Well, again, this is now our second time, for me, second first-person shooter.
Yeah.
And first off, I love the art style.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that kind of Fortnite, kind of that the characters,
Yep.
that cartoon kind of effect. But when you start off in the hub, we talked about it a little bit earlier, and they've done an amazing job on the hub. It's very easy to go to different parts, whether it's upgrade or go to the store and things like that. You just grab the little remote or the clicker, and then you hit the button and you just point to what you want to do. And then I just think it is a lot of fun. And then for me as well, then jumping into the game, I didn't have many issues. It's quite quick on the loading screen to jump you straight into the game. You might sometimes jump halfway through a match that's already started.
Yeah.
So like you might get killed, and then all of a sudden you have to wait for the next match. But I found the flow of the movement really good and quite fluent as well. I had no issues at all on that front.
Nice. Actually, yeah, movement, again, because I play with the Cosmos Elite headset, I have the touchpad controllers, whereas you play with the Oculus and you have the joysticks, which I think in a game like this, having a joystick is actually a competitive advantage, because I always find movement with the touchpads to be a little kind of janky sometimes, and in a game where maneuverability is everything, it did take me a little bit of getting used to kind of figure out how they wanted me to use those particular controllers for this game. But honestly, overall, I had a lot of fun. I really liked the shooting mechanics. They did a pretty good job with having kind of this quick one-touch reload where there's a bit of a funky animation depending on which character you are. They kind of have a stylistic reload, which I did kind of like. I had seen some people talk about it being a bit of an issue because it feels like it kind of removes you a little bit because you're not doing any of those motions yourself. It's just kind of an automatic thing on screen. But outside of those few kind of animations you don't control, the movement and the control you do have over the character is really cool. There's kind of these quick grapple points that get you around the map really quickly, and you can get those flanks on the different teams. And I just actually had a blast because the game modes they give you right off the bat, we got 3 originally at launch, and they have added one in since then, and it's kind of like a domination where there's 3 points you capture and hold those points to gain points. We have kind of a capture the flag uplink type game mode, and then also there was the 6v6 team deathmatch, and they've most recently added a payload game mode, which is essentially escorting a vehicle from one point to the other while the other team basically tries to stop you along the way, which they've done a really good job, because that map they added in for that looks amazing. And like you said, the graphics is really what gets me here, because you're moving around these maps so quick, but everything does look really good, really solid. I didn't have any real graphical glitches. A couple times when missions are, I guess, heists, they call them heists in this game, load in, I was a little kind of, screen drop, frame droppy a little bit, but at the same time, it cleared up really quickly, and then I had no issues throughout the match. They give you a lot of control options when you go into the menus. There's lots of graphical and audio options as well, so you can really tailor the experience to the headset that you are using, which I really, really liked here. Honestly, Steve, I had a ton of fun playing this game. I don't have too many bad things to say about it. If there's anything you had to maybe give it a knock on, do you got anything you want to touch on there?
No, I had slight lagging issues, but that was only because we were trying to record a bit of game footage, obviously, for our review. But I did try it without recording, and I had no lag issues. I do like the idea of having like 9 characters that you can unlock as you progress through the game, and it will be a grind to unlock them. But like most games, it's always a hit and miss on who you get to play with. This is definitely something, if you can get your squad or your friends and have that communication, because each character has different abilities, whether it's to heal you or certain things, and it's all about the teamwork. And as we sort of mentioned earlier, we played with a bunch of randoms. Some of them didn't have mics on, and I just felt like a rogue fighter going off on my own kind of thing, which you get that in a lot of games, but it didn't put me off this game, because at the end of the day, the audio I thought was really cool as well with it, the little voiceovers in it, like in your ear kind of thing.
Oh yeah, they did a good job with
your
all
characters
that stuff.
And stuff like that. So it is a lot of fun, and you will be expected to sort of go out on your own, really, if you don't group up with your buddies.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, Steve, we've been running around playing Larcenauts, and honestly, I think we both had a pretty good time playing this arena shooter. It's one of the more kind of polished shooter, multiplayer games I've played on VR up to this point. If you had to score Larcenauts out of 10, what are you going to give it?
Well, I'm definitely jumping back into this one, because the more and more I played, the more I wanted to sort of get the points to upload and upgrade certain weapons and things like that. So I'm giving this an 8.
Oh, nice. You know what? I think if we would have originally done this game when it first came out, I think my score would be a little bit lower. But you know what? The devs have done a good job supporting the community and this game by making improvements, in the short period of time, the last 6 months that this game has been out. So they definitely get a few good points from me there. Honestly, I just had too much fun playing this game. I'm right there with an 8 as well.
The enemy is downloading the data. You have 3 minutes.
Great team shooter that has lots of upgrading and characters with unique abilities. Definitely has a good variety of game modes as well as levels, but sometimes that computer AI could definitely be a little bit better.
So, what we're gonna do with the intel?
We need it for the job, the heist, larceny.
Larceny? More like...
Well, Cory, it's just you and me today, buddy. We've got an interesting discussion in the world of video games as NFTs are starting to creep their way into our space. I know some are real skeptical, some are all in, and a lot of us are just really confused.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? We've been hearing a lot about NFTs lately, especially in the gaming space. I mean, if you don't know what an NFT is, it's a non-fungible token. Not that that means anything to you either, but you're going to start hearing it a lot more, whether it's in gaming or not. But, being show hosts and playing games, we're starting to notice that this word NFT is starting to kind of roll into video games that we currently play, and we're also starting to see play to earn games pop up in their own NFT projects as well, which is starting to really expand kind of the view on what gaming's going to be like in the future here. And there's some very interesting data we've come across as far as successful NFT games right now that a lot of people maybe don't know about, but we know there's a lot of people playing them.
Yes.
We were talking about Axie Infinity is actually being one of them. It's probably one of the largest projects right now.
Yep.
I said earlier, they're like the Minecraft of NFT games right now. There's millions of people playing this game, and it's pulling in tons of money. And to me, it's a very interesting space because we're still so new in this. There's so many people that don't even know what NFTs are. Yep. And we have people like Ubisoft trying to drop NFT projects for their games.
Fumble. Absolutely. Dude, that was weird. So they announced they're dropping this NFT project called Quartz. And the first implementation of it will be heading over to the world of Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which has already had a rocky start in the first place.
Yeah.
So they're finally starting to come out of hot water, and then they get sunk right back into it with this announcement of Quartz and the ability to buy NFTs for gun skins and things of that nature. No one knew what the heck was going on. The PC world was up in a blaze. It was one of the most disliked videos Ubisoft, I think, has ever received, to the point where they actually delisted the video. So, like, that was, it was so unfortunate for them to come out that way. Because, like you talked about, Axie Infinity, dude, made $500 million in the last 30 days on their game. Like,
30 days.
That was 30 days. Just the last 30 days, right? NFTs are an interesting topic. It's the way to own something. And the way I'm starting to kind of look at this and come around is, dude, right now, I download all my games, right?
Yep.
What if they take that off the store? It's gone. But if I have an NFT attached to a blockchain, now I own a piece of that game, and there's some kind of royalty in that for me to say, hey, I still have this. This is still a part of me. And the ability to then, if I choose to, Corey, I could sell that gun skin to you. At maybe a higher value or a lesser value. It depends on how, with the blockchain and the bitcoins and all the, oh man, all the coin market kind of goes like this, right? So it's a weird mix of how we're starting to see almost like the stocks make their way into NFTs, into the video game industry, and it's kind of all over the place. And that's the biggest problem, is nobody really has a clear vision of how to operate this or how to bring it in. We got feedback from Square Enix that the president over there says, yeah, this is great. Whether or not you like video games doesn't really matter, because we're talking about moving it and putting it into the NFTs into our video games. And then there's an announcement that GDC did a survey for theirs saying 75% of their devs aren't interested in NFTs. So 75% of our industry really doesn't care about the world of NFTs, but others do. And that's the biggest thing moving forward, is that how are they going to implement it when it doesn't? Remember the big the loot box crave that we had? And that's, I think, where people are getting that fear from, right? Is that going to turn into this scenario where we're just like guess and roll the dice and let's see what happens, and maybe we get something cool, maybe we don't. And I think that's kind of where the tipping point right now is, where the NFT line holds. But I know there's a lot of people that I'm talking to right now are very interested in the world of NFTs. And then there's the others on the complete opposite side are like, man, I don't like this idea of them creeping into our world of video games. We just want to enjoy the video game, right? When I can absolutely see that. But from a business perspective, dude, you make $500 million in 30 days and tell me that's not a cool idea, right? Like, that's the other side of it.
Yeah, there's something about it that works, right? I mean, it's undeniable when you make that kind of money. I mean, maybe it's just because we're a little more old school. We were raised as, you know, if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Absolutely.
But honestly, we're at a stage with NFTs where, you know, when the internet became a thing, people were hesitant to adopt it. People were, you know, people didn't want to buy things online. They didn't think that was something that you could do. It was even possible, right? So, you know, over the years, now that's a regular thing. How often we have things in our homes that order stuff for us now. I mean, it's all about the early adopters pushing the fact that these are going to be a thing, and we're going to start seeing them everywhere, not only in gaming, but I mean, when it comes to what we're talking about on a day-to-day basis, it is going to change the landscape of the gaming world, whether we're creating new games through NFT projects, or we're doing something like Ubisoft where they create NFTs for their already existing projects or games, whether it's skins or, like you said, different vehicles, whatever the game may be. Anything that is considered a digital asset can have a contract that's written on the blockchain, and that is something that cannot be changed, and it's something that you will forever own as long as you still hold that, right? Whether you sell it off to somebody, then it transfers to them. But it's it's so interesting to see where we're at with it all, Drew. I honestly think that, you know, by the end of this year, this conversation is going to be a lot deeper, but I think there's going to be a lot more understanding. Right now, it's still so new, but I think if you haven't heard about NFTs, you should start looking into them because they're going to be popping up everywhere. And if you play games, whether or not you like it, I think it's something that we're going to actually have to adopt here in the future.
Absolutely. My biggest fear, Cory, is using the NFTs to make a play-to-win model. Right, and I can definitely see some companies trying this model out. They want to earn the money. You want to win? Okay, you have to buy this, and you have to get into that NFT situation, right? I think that's the biggest fear coming out of this, is how are they really going to manipulate this so it just benefits the developer and not the gamer, right? They got to keep the gamer in mind. That's the biggest thing. What, as a consumer, what do we get out of this, and why do I want to invest into your game? I already want to play the game. Dude, I just want to play Ragnarok. It's not that hard, right? But I don't need to buy an NFT of Kratos. So, and then we get Troy Baker, who comes out and he's putting his voice as an NFT. I'm like, how's that work? So now I'm going to own you as the Joker? Like, I own that voice? Like, how's that? Like, you know what I mean? That's what I mean. There's so many questions.
There's not enough clarity in the space right now because it's still so new. So even the people that are, you know, quote unquote NFT gurus, they're still learning every day about this space because it's developing so quickly. So that's why I think maybe we're going to see it in games, whether it's successful implementation or not. Like you said, this pay to win is something we got away from years ago, but it is a concern going forward if these larger gaming corporations and companies decide that, hey, we want to make a quick buck, so let's put this skin available that, you know, is expensive, but if you have it, it's gonna be a lot harder to see your character in that battle royale or whatever it may be, right? Like, that is a big worry, and I could totally see why 75% of developers say, you know what, right now it's not something we're interested in, right? There's a lot of other issues in the gaming world that need to be fixed with a lot of games, so adding something that isn't totally clear to most people is probably not the best move right now.
No, I don't think it is, but we'll see how the future holds. Dude, but think about Halo. If you had a cool NFT helmet, right? That holds value to you and that whole Halo community. They just announced there's 20 million players right now on Halo Infinite.
It's a lot of people.
Oh yeah, right? They're all playing right now. But if you had one particular helmet that made you a ton of money, would you not want to take it? Maybe you don't, maybe you do. But there's so many questions. Let us know what you think of NFTs over at InsideTheGame.ca.
So once you've cleared all those pesky enemies, you then head to the terminal in the center part of the room, shut down the reactors, and start the timer. Scattered throughout the room are these pipes. You have a generous amount of time to repair them, but note that enemies keep spawning in to attack you while you're repairing them. Now once the last pipe has been repaired, you reset the reactor and are ready to move on to the next segment. There are mainframe cores scattered all throughout this area that you have to manually destroy. Of course, keep in mind there are a ton of turrets and robots all throughout this area while you're trying to do this, so I generally clear the area first and then go through the cores. Now once you've damaged the mainframe core system enough, you are ready to move on to the next area. There's always an Assaultron here, so take note that this can be sometimes a 3-star legendary. But after that, you are in the second last area. So in this case, instead of damaging mainframe cores again, you actually have to replace the damaged ones. This is where having that 45 steel and 30 circuitry is essential, because if you don't want to be bothered to find some of the fixed mainframe cores that are scattered throughout the area, you need this much material to fix the 15 mainframe cores required for this step. So once you've grabbed the damaged mainframe cores, repaired them at the Tinkerer's workbench around the corner, and then manually replaced them, you are then ready for the final step. So all mainframe cores replaced, you are then ready to enter the control room and start the final phase. So upon entering the area, you must clear out all the robots and turrets, and once you've done so, you just have to head to the main terminal and start the final phase. So once the launch sequence is initiated, you have to defend 1 to 5 robots that are on your side this time that are preparing the missile launch. So once the missile is ready to launch, you then have just a couple more steps before you get to wreak havoc on Appalachia. You first insert your nuclear keycard, you then enter your code on the right hand side. This is where nukecrypt.com is essential. You can favorite this page like I have, but make sure that when you do, you refresh the page each time that you do it so that you have the most updated code. And if you mess up the numbers, you burn through that nuclear keycard. So make sure that you are careful when you're entering that code. Now that's it. Enter your destination and watch hell let loose.
Scott, you and I are checking out a colony sim with a twist.
This is where I can start a new life.
Scott, you and I are checking out Medieval Dynasty over on Steam. This is a colony sim with a different perspective than what we're normally used to. You can play it in first person, and as of late with an update, you can actually play it in third person. I've been following this game for a very long time, just to kind of keep my eye on it, and definitely looking forward to getting in. Now that I'm in, I got definitely a few different thoughts on this one. Scott, what do you think of this game?
Well, my first impression of it was this is an interesting idea for a colony sim, but
Yeah.
I'm used to going medieval where you're completely top down. So
Exactly.
I thought, okay, this is an interesting idea here, and getting into just the first little bit, there's a lot of story element that it hits you with, but I think you might have an interesting idea about that story element.
The story to me was just pointless. Honestly, it felt just meandering around looking for these objects and quests to do, and the dialogue, there is a ton of dialogue, so I hope you like to read because there's so much to read. I think that was one of the biggest things for me is like, man, there's no voice acting here at all. Like, give me a narrator of some sort, right? There's nothing. They just kind of do a little bit and then it's just text to the point where I'm just like, I'm skipping because even with skipping though, I'm skipping for 2 minutes. I'm like, if I actually had to read all that, like, holy crap. They get one quest. Scott, I gotta talk about it. I have to go give somebody a knuckle sandwich. That was my quest. Like, in some of the cheese ball aspects of this game,
you get to this guy and he goes, well, are you gonna deliver it? And one of the options was, sorry, I seem to have dropped my knuckle sandwich along the way. And I thought that was just, had a little bit of humor sprinkled in there because it is kind of a wacky game otherwise.
It definitely is. I went for the other option and I said, really? You want me to give you a knuckle sandwich? He goes, yes, I would love a knuckle sandwich. That's what I've been waiting for. Something along that line. I was like, really? And then my answer was, really? And he goes, no, I don't want a knuckle sandwich. I was just like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Why am I just don't want to play the story. Dude, the story for me, it was just so lackluster, cheeseball. It felt like it wasn't really an invoking story. I think that was the biggest thing, right? It starts off so fast that you're just tossed out in the village, and then you're just on these mission quests for me, and it's just it's not what I wanted. It didn't have that heartstring pull I think they might have been going for because it didn't pull me in whatsoever. But Scott, let's get into the building mechanics. How did you adjust? Because I know that's what hooked you.
Yeah, no, I really like that colony sim part where it's you kind of build these things out to house people and then fill them up. And it goes one step further from there too. You have to get these people employed. So there's again another colony sim bit where you have to keep these people not only fed and sheltered, but they need something to do, and you can actually get them set up to be providing for the community too. So it has quite a long arc to it, but that gameplay loop of, okay, well, do I have enough to build a house? You can put it down, it shows a little bit of a blueprint, and then you can go about adding those bits to the house until it's done. And that was something that was really satisfying for me. So I ended up kind of spending a little bit too much time building a ghost town at the beginning. But it was really enjoyable to go into the different settlements though and try and recruit people to your settlement. I think that's the main goal of this game, and it was really interesting because you find some of these quirks about people. You know, talk to one person, do a little helpful quest, you know, give another boy in the town a stick. You are now a knight. I loved that.
But when nightfall came, I snuck into the village, dude, and robbed everybody clean. There was not a coin left to be found. I would go from one settlement to the other and steal as much as I could. I'm walking out with salt. I got coins. I got dough. I've got like tools. Whatever I can get my hands on that night, I would bring back to my own settlement and then toss it in my crate and store it for myself. So yeah, again, make your own fun sometimes, right? It's definitely got its aspects. One of the biggest things though, I think that it is missing, Scott, and I believe it's coming, but it's not there yet, is multiplayer. That is something I think would really benefit the game, to be able to hang out with you and I in the same party, in the same world, building out our village, right? Let's work on our own colony together, and how big can we make this thing? I think that's where the game will kind of elevate things for me, but right now I'm left a little bit shy on how I'm kind of feeling for this one.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. The multiplayer would absolutely elevate the game, and that would make it kind of an addictive property too. If I have, you know, perhaps we're competitive. We have two different towns, and then we're building up, you know, do we bring it up to the level of warfare? These things aren't options at the moment, but these are ideas that would definitely make the game a huge standout to me. But I like that you were making a lot of fun yourself with the village, because that reminds me of my early days of playing Morrowind.
Yeah.
and I just, you know, would ransack every house in town, but I don't think you can murder town folk in this game. I don't know if you would want to, but
I tried setting them on fire. It doesn't work. I pulled up my torch and I'm waving at them. It doesn't do anything. I tried shooting one with my spear. I made a spear and I tried jabbing him with the spear. It went right through him, hit the house, and broke. I was like, oh man. Yeah. I was not playing very nice. This is a cool idea. Medieval Dynasty does do stuff a lot different than what we've seen with other colony sims, and I really appreciate where it's at, but the story for me was really lackluster. The lack of multiplayer isn't quite there yet. I know it's on the way, so that's going to be a big improvement to the game overall. Right now, for me, over on PC, I'm looking forward to come to console in the near future, but until that time, for now, dude, I'm there with the 6. What are you giving this one?
I understand, I think, some of the problems you've had. It just seems like I've enjoyed some of those aspects a little bit more without ransacking the town. But I like that this is a combination of a couple different ideas. Going medieval is the first one I think of, but there's the story beginning of it kind of reminds me of Fable. But that story is kind of a letdown, and the construction is a little bit slower with the way you have to level up through and get different technology. It adds some depth, but it makes the beginning of the game a little slow. I was impressed, but again, multiplayer, voiceovers, and maybe just a little bit of trimming with the modeling. But other than that, I was pretty impressed with this game. I'm going to be going back, that's for sure. I'm at 7.5. There's some improvements I want to see, but I'm pretty satisfied.
Nice.
Medieval Dynasty has great colony sim construction and management. Awkward story and no voice acting really holds this game back.
Alright, this week we're headed to the Sonoa region and catching them all. Alright, so I got to sink my teeth into Pokémon Shining Pearl, a game that I actually never played in the past. So to finally see it remastered on the Nintendo Switch, well, it's been a pretty solid time. The game starts off very standard to all of the Pokemon games up to date. You start off in your house, talking to your mother, going on your first adventure as a Pokemon trainer. But what's kind of cool in this one is you're interacting with your rival or your friend, and you kind of stumble upon the professor and the professor's assistant. Shortly after running into them, you realize that they left their bag of Pokeballs. And then a Pokemon comes in and attacks you, so you have to choose one of the 3 starting Pokemon to begin your journey. And this was actually kind of a cool twist. I like this. And the 3 starting Pokemon, I mean, they are actually really awesome. Chimchar, Piplup, and Turtwig are some of the coolest starters that we've had in Pokemon games. So of course the game takes you on its typical linear path, taking on one gym at a time, and of course there's this evil organization known as Team Galactic this time that is trying to take over the world in their own way yet again. So all of this story is played through in a typical Pokemon fashion. You're going about exploring, taking on different trainers, earning cash, and leveling up your Pokemon, catching all sorts of Pokemon, and in my opinion, the Pokemon in this game are pretty awesome. But I guess if there was one thing I could gripe about, it's maybe the graphics. I felt a little underwhelmed while playing this. I preferred to not have the chibi style characters that we got in this one. Pokemon Sword and Shield definitely looked better than Shining Pearl or Bright Diamond. But one thing they've added in this game is the underground area, and in my opinion, this was definitely a highlight for Shining Pearl. What's unique about the underground is much like Sword and Shield, where in certain areas you could see Pokemon roaming around the area, you can do that in this. So this just gives catching certain types of Pokemon that you're looking for way easier. And also in this area, I mean, there's all sorts of items to obtain as well. Some new features that are in this game as well is the Pokedex. Instead of having to catch the Pokemon, you can actually just battle it one time, and then you have the data saved in your Pokedex. So if you are a completionist, you don't necessarily need to catch all of the Pokemon to fill out your Pokedex. And another new feature is how they treat HMs and TMs. When you obtain TMs, you don't just get one this time, you actually usually get a few, so you can test this move on a couple different Pokemon. And the way HMs work this time are much more efficient. You don't have to teach your Pokemon cut or strength. Instead, these moves are actually a part of your Poketech, and you can just use these abilities as you learn them throughout the story. So all of this to say, guys, I mean, the game is pretty solid. I definitely enjoyed my time. I mean, this is a Pokemon game, and if you are a fan of Pearl or Diamond and you haven't played it in years, or if you've actually maybe skipped this generation like I did, this could be a good one for you to check out. So I definitely am going to have to give this one a 7 out of 10. Battling, leveling, and grinding Pokemon feels just like it should with this remaster. But mediocre graphics alongside a hefty price tag may steer some people away from picking this one up.
What's up, everybody? We are back with another Game Watch. That's right, it is almost the end of January, which means we're coming up into a new month, and we've got the best games coming out for the month of February. Kicking things off is Life is Strange Remastered Collection. This is your chance to catch up with Max and Chloe. Max has some stunning ability to rewind time, and the story is what set the path of Life is Strange. This is where it all began, and it's released on February 1st, kicking off the month on PlayStation, family consoles, PS4, PS5, the Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Stadia, and PC, and eventually coming to Switch. Following that, just a few days later, I know the guys are hyped for this one. It's Dying Light 2 Stay Human. After numerous delays, the zombie apocalypse is back, and with your choices having consequences. Definitely one you should keep an eye on. Coming on February 4th to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PC, and eventually Switch as well. I don't know if that's really where you want to play this one. Coming up is one of the games I've been most excited for this month is Sifu. If you're into kung fu fighting, well, you need to check this one out. You're on the path of revenge after your family's been murdered, and you can find this one on February 8th for PS5, PS4, and PC. One of the biggest exclusives this year for the world of PlayStation is the return of Aloy with Horizon Forbidden West on February 18th for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. The world around Aloy is dying, and she is out on a quest like no other, heading into the Forbidden West. People are already talking about Game of the Year with this title. We're talking about Elden Ring. Man, it's not even out yet, and people are pumped. How can you not be, though, when it comes from one of the best developers around in that Souls-like genre with none other than From Software? That's right, Elden Ring launches on February 25th for PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, as well as Xbox One if you're there. And those are the games coming out this February. That's a huge list. How much time do you have? Because I know we are going to be sinking a ton of time into a ton of games. That's it. If you have a game that we might have missed, hit us up and let us know. InsideTheGame.ca. We're globetrotting with an old friend.
You ever wonder, with different choices, how we might have ended up?
That's right, Nathan Drake is back. This is Uncharted, the Legacy of Thieves collection. We're jumping all the way back to 2016 with the release of Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. And then a year later, we get Nadine and Chloe coming out with their own DLC, Lost Legacy. That's right, 2017 was a year later when we saw that latest DLC drop. It was a longer expansion than I expected back then, and it is still to this day. It's fantastic to see this transition move over into the world of PS5 with all the, the things we expect from the world of PlayStation. DualSense, the haptic triggers they take into effect here as well. That has a prominence within this game. The ability to go from last gen into next gen kind of raises a question of what's in the future for Uncharted. However, going back down memory lane, it was a blast to return to a 2016 title that I haven't touched in a long time. Side note, no multiplayer. That's kind of disappointing, I'll be honest, but playing the single player campaigns of both Uncharted 4 and then the DLC with Lost Legacy was fantastic. It looks beautiful. It runs silky smooth. I did have a bit of a hiccup hooking up on your actual companions. Working with Sam, trying to get around Sam sometimes, he felt like he was a bigger block than what he actually is within the game, which was kind of weird. I was trying to maneuver around him. I couldn't really get around him at sometimes, trying to solve puzzles, just traverse the world. Overall, though, if you played Uncharted, this is Uncharted again, just on PlayStation 5. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, it was 2016 when I played. Definitely been a long time. So now that I'm back, it feels great to be back. It put a smile on my face, something I wasn't anticipating all that much. I'm a huge Uncharted fan, but it's been years since I've been able to play it. And now that we're in the next gen, how well does that transition over? And it's fantastic to see there. We all know the story. If you know the story of Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy, nothing's changed. That's the biggest thing, right? You're getting a remaster for the next gen. But if this is a new experience for you and you haven't been able to play Uncharted yet, This is a great starting point for you to get into this franchise. Yeah, you're going to miss a couple things not playing 1, 2, and 3. They do have throwbacks to those. So, you know, for those who have been around in this franchise for so long, you're going to pick up on all these things. But if you've never played before, this is a great starting point. And I think it's a bright future for the world of Uncharted. It's great to see Nolan and Troy Baker back at each other again, having this brotherly connection, even within somewhat of a real life scenario, though they aren't brothers by nature, but they just been such close friends. You get that sense and that feel back and forth within the dialogue of the game, and the way they banter with each other is fantastic. Again, if you haven't played this is a fantastic start. These characters are so full of life. We globetrot all over the place. It's fantastic. Sully's there too, which is awesome to see. So many highlights in the world of Uncharted, but it comes down to really two major points I struggled with. No multiplayer, which is too bad, because that would have kept the game going a lot longer. Once you've played these and you've kind of finished out the story, that's kind of it, you're done. Now, these aren't short games either. It didn't really take me too long to get through either of them. However, they are longer than what they have been in the past. So that's nice to see that there is some longevity in here, but the lack of multiplayer, bringing that forth, was unfortunate. It was kind of a missed thing that we could have been having some sort of shooter that would have kept us alive in the world of Uncharted on PlayStation 5, because there's just, at this moment, really nothing out there.
There is just a small matter of a few hundred eyewitnesses down there.
Okay, but we just need a diversion.
It's fair to say that PlayStation brings back one of the all-time favorites within the PlayStation exclusive library with Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, and Uncharted Lost Legacy. Packaging this into one compilation of a collection has been a fantastic trip down memory lane, and again, if you haven't played it, now is your time. Couple little things, nothing too major really set back, just hook up on your companions, and the lack of multiplayer was just a little unfortunate, and maybe an oversight at the grand scheme of things. However, single player campaign is one of the best around, and the adventures and set pieces, the cinematics, the story, there's so much to explore in here. Had a blast, and definitely great to be back with more Uncharted. For me, gonna wrap this up with a 9. The return of an old friend on the PlayStation 5 was a welcome journey. New gameplay mechanics thanks to the DualSense controller is great. Uncharted will stand the test of time. However, hookups with your AI companions and no multiplayer will have your playthrough come to an end. But damn, it's a good way to end this incredible journey.
Libertalia.
The long-lost legendary pirate you target.
The biggest pirate treasure of all time is within our grasp.
Take the wheel. What? Be out of your mind. Probably. Oh, crap.
Well, once again, that'll wrap up this show. Just like that, it is over. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. And as always, you can be a part of our show by going to insidethegame.ca or hitting us up in Discord, where there you can submit your clip and be the highlight of the week. Who do we have this week? We have none other than Muggs44 and some merry men over in the world of Hell Let Loose. Sometimes you just need to listen to your commander, because if you don't, this might happen. Until next week, everybody, thanks again, and we'll see you inside the game.
I don't think that that's actually in any no way, shape, or form are you supposed to stand still, practically speaking, in combat. No, you're not supposed to stand still.
Oh, jeez, right around that corner. Super close.
Wow.